Hello, Stephan here with Liquidity with a video about the very common German prefix ver, as in these couple of words here and many others. What does it do? What does it mean? And where does it come from?
Liquidity.
There are many German verbs that include the prefix ver, such as verstehen, versuchen, vergeben, verpassen, vermissen, and it would be very difficult to have a conversation in German without verbs that start with ver. The prefix ver is never a separable prefix. It always stays attached to the verb, no matter how you conjugate them or how much you conjugate them. Each and every one of these verbs would be fun to investigate, but for this video, I will just focus on the basics. The prefix ver is also very common with German nouns. Usually these are noun versions of verbs, such as the combination of verzichten und der Verzicht. Verzichten means to waive. Der Verzicht is a waiver or an agreement not to use something. So if you see a noun that starts with ver, you can almost bet on it that this is actually a noun version of a verb, of a verb, if you can call them that. Many of the verbs that the ver is attached to still have meaning today in modern day German. That's not always the case though, but many of them do. For instance, versuchen means to try, to attempt. Suchen by itself means to seek or to search or to look for. Another one would be verstehen, which means to understand, and stehen, just as in the word understand, means to stand, right? Many of the verbs that the ver is attached to no longer have meaning. Obviously, one time they did, but that is no longer used in modern German, and modern Germans wouldn't understand what that means. For instance, the word verlieren, which means to lose. Nobody would understand what lieren means. Obviously, at one time that made sense. Interestingly, though enough, that is connected to an English word. So the past participle of verlieren is verloren, and that is related to the English adjective forlorn, which originally was also a past participle. So what exactly does ver do to a verb? How does it enhance or contribute or change its meaning? There's no easy answer to that. In fact, this German website here lists 12 distinct ways in which ver might add to the meaning or change the meaning of a verb, and very often it's more than one that is the case. It would be futile to try to remember all of these. In general, the prefix ver adds the sense of a process and a desired or an expected outcome. Very often there is a negative or at least a cynical or ironic undertone to that outcome, to that process. So very often when you see a ver verb, it's not just a process, something being done with something being worked with, but there's often the sense of that it's basically messed with. Since the prefix ver often contributes something negative or at least something cynical or ironic, these words are very commonly used in a playful way, but also sometimes in a degrading way. For instance, let's look at this word, verschlafen. So schlafen means to sleep. Verschlafen doesn't mean just to sleep in. It means to sleep too long, too late, unintentionally. This is not what you wanted to do, or at least not what you were supposed to do. It can also imply a certain moral or ethical shortcoming. It could be used in the sense that somebody is not paying attention, somebody is not stepping up, somebody is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, somebody's not working hard enough, right? So that sort of thing. Verschlafen can also be used in a figurative sense to basically miss out on an opportunity. So for instance, you could say, das hab ich verschlafen. I missed out on this opportunity. Can't even translate that literally and still make sense in English. The prefix ver is actually closely related to other prefixes, not only in Germanic languages, but Indo-European languages in general. For instance, the prefixes pre and pro in Latin, Greek, Russian, many other languages, including German, by the way, which has a lot of Latin words. Those are examples. The för in Swedish, for instance, is closely related. So in Swedish, we have words like författare, which means an author. In German, we have a similar word for that, verfasser. Or for instance, in Swedish, we also have the verb verlora, which means verlieren in German and to lose in English. When you see the prefix ver in the West Germanic languages of Dutch and Flemish, they're almost identical to German, maybe even identical. I'm not 100% sure on that, but they're very, very closely related. When English verbs use the prefix for, for, sometimes fore, very often it serves exactly the same purpose as the German prefix ver. Examples would be fordo, forbear, forbid, foreclose, forfeit, forgive, forget, forgo, forsake. Be careful though, because in English, FOR and FORE do pull double duty. They don't always translate into German as ver. So for instance, sometimes for means before and to looking into the future, and they're better translated with the German prefix VOR, for, as in forecast. Also be careful here, for when used as a preposition translates into German usually with für, spelled like this. So for instance, a sentence like, this video is for you, dieses Video ist für dich, we would use für, and that's for as a preposition. English and German have a lot of false friends and also some close cousins where it's just a little bit different, a little bit off, so just keep an eye on that. Finally, let me give you a few examples of commonly used ver words. The first three that I'm going to use here are reflexive ones. Sich verlaufen. Laufen means to run, to walk, to move yourself along at a fairly good pace. Verlaufen means to lose yourself literally. So sich verlaufen means you're getting lost. You no longer know where you're going. Sich verschreiben. So schreiben means to write. Sich verschreiben means to make some mistakes, make some typos maybe, or just get off the wrong path as you're writing. Sich vertun. Very, very, very common. That is just a very basic way of saying to make a mistake. I'm going to put these two together because they basically mean the same thing. Versauen, verpatzen. Versauen has the word sauen in it, which is actually a verb form of the perfectly fine German noun sau, which in English means sow or pig or something like that. This just basically means to mess up, to not do things right, and to make a mess of it. Verlassen. Lassen by itself means to let. Verlassen means to leave behind, to basically remove yourself from a person or from a situation, to leave behind, sort of. The next one has a direct cognate in English, vergeben, to forgive. Verzeihen also means to forgive. Verschenken. Schenken just means to give as a present. Verschenken means to give away. So it's more like giving away stuff. I don't care who gets these things that I want to give away to people. Verstellen. So stellen by itself means to stand, to be in place. Verstellen means to either adjust or maybe to also mess with the settings of something. So for instance, if you get into somebody's phone and mess around with the settings, that could be also verstellen. Verbrauchen. Brauchen means to need. Usually it can mean also to use something. Verbrauchen means simply to consume. Versagen is tricky because it actually has two different meanings. It can mean as much as to fail, and as much as to prohibit, depending on how it is used. Sagen, of course, means simply to say. So if you add the prefix ver, it changes its meaning. And in this case, it also depends on the context. Verschließen. So schließen means to lock up. Verschließen means to lock something away, to really lock something very tightly. No one's getting in, no one's getting out, or nothing gets in, nothing gets out. And finally, here's an interesting one, vermachen. So machen just means basically to make, to do, to maybe produce something. Vermachen means to bequeath. It means to give as an inheritance posthumously. Thanks for watching. If you're still watching this, you probably enjoyed, or at least I hope you enjoyed this video and didn't just make yourself watch the whole thing, or maybe somebody else forced you to watch the whole thing. So if you did, please give it a like and consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't done so yet. I have a bunch of other videos. Most of them are about German, but others about language in general. Some are about language history, especially German language history. Also a little bit of English history, English grammar. Go check them out and see if there's something you like. Bye, see you in the next video. Tschüss.